Chapter 91. A unique greater demon. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Adrian was unaware of the ruckus he has caused in the mortal plane and is currently undergoing a minor headache due to the evolution process. Seriously, does the developer have a grudge against players that every single time I will experience a transformation pain would be induced, was Adrian's shout, but he did not know that it was already toned down by 100 times, which means the NPCs that experience evolution of the persona have fatality rates. After Adrian was finally satisfied ranting to a non-existent person, he finally noticed that his body was changing. From the outside of the cocoon, they could only see the cocoon pulsating and giving of intense energy that they could see the energy manifest into a black and gray streak. From the inside, Adrian could feel his body adapt to the power that he has accumulated. He could also see the system messages tell him about it, though he just glances at them due to him experiencing a minor headache. Current comprehension rate 109.8%. You must have to comprehend at least 70% in order to succeed and evolve. Due to exceeding the maximum needed comprehension rate, the user's body will be transformed to perfectly adapt to the energy absorbed by the user. Higher tier racial skills will be locked due to the user's low level. Injecting Seed of Calamity unto the user's body, injection completed as the body has become completely compatible. Adrian saw something that bothered his eyes, but he just shrugged it off because he was focused on the energy entering his body. He could feel that his horns were growing because there was a sensation that it was getting pulled. All the markings or symbols that was glowing on his body was also moving towards the crystal that emerged from the center of his chest. The crystal was an octahedron and pulsated in gray and black light. This crystal was the Adrian's Deimos core. When a lesser demon evolves to a greater demon, not only do their horns grow but the core inside their body emerges. The reason their core emerges is that a greater demon evolves using the energy they comprehend. From that, their core will automatically form a connection with that form of energy, absorb that kind of energy from the surroundings. The core's color also decides what type of energy the greater demon has communed with, and Adrian is no different. The three demon elders was looking at the cocoon that was in front of them and prayed to the twin gods to protect the young demon undergoing his evolution. When they heard the universal message, they were ecstatic because the young demon comprehended an unknown energy and would evolve to become a being that was a unique demon. Usually unique demons only appeared and they become archdemons, but now a unique greater demon was about to be born. A few seconds later, they could hear a cracking sound from the demon cocoon. The Hanya was the first to crack, and then it trailed down to all parts of the cocoon until a deafening sound was produced when the cocoon exploded. There was a shockwave of massive energy that broke the kinetic barrier first and then the temporal barrier next. The massive energy wave diminished in power, but it was not enough for the spatial isolation barrier to hold. The massive wave of energy was perceived by all the demons in the paradox planes and they felt refreshed. It was the blessing of the universe that washed over them, and the three elders knew that this would be useful for all the demons affiliated with the one bestowed with the blessing. A voice rung inside the demons affiliated with the paradox planes, both located there and those outside of it. The Deimos race of the paradox planes have been given the blessing of the universe. All individuals connected to them will be cured of any illness and would have their experience multiplied by 2 for 1 week. This was the message that Adrian received since he was the only player in the location. The NPCs received a different message and they were different from players. The Deimos race of the paradox planes have been given the blessing of the universe. All individuals will have a higher conception rate and will have higher chance of growth rate for 1 week. The three elders and all of the demons cheered and they heard this message, as the Deimos race were low in number due to being hunted outside and the low chance of producing an offspring. In the game it is said that the longer the life of a being, the lower the chance to produce an offspring, and with the Deimos race having indefinite life, then their chances are astronomically low. It would be a celebration if 2 demons would be born in a span of a century. In the near future, they would not face this problem. When the universal message was heard, there were traces of greed and fear on the peak experts. Greed because if they find the source and the individual was weak they could steal it from that individual. Fear because they did not know who that individual is and it could slaughter them when that individual finds out that some bugs were eyeing it. The energy wave bypassed the dimensional plane but it was already weakened, so there were only faint traces of it, and the peak experts from different realms lost the source and decided to turn back, though some still waited to feel that amazing energy again and hopefully find its source. Some peak experts who were knowledgeable of space magic tried to look for the traces of that energy using the skill memory of space but was unable to receive a reaction. It is already funny enough that they tried using that when the Deimos, the masters of origin magic, was the one they are up against. Even a lesser demon will have greater understanding of space magic than them who only barely scratched the surface for space magic. When the debris cleared away, the three elders saw the greater demon for the first time and they were astonished. The horns on him had scales with cracks that pulsated a violet light and was on fire, but the fire was colored gray instead of red. The horns were now 6 inches in length and was no longer dull but pointed. The runic symbols on his skin were no more and his skin became pale white with a little tint of blue that was almost unnoticeable. The most striking thing was that its core was unlike anything they have ever seen. It glowed in black and gray light, and when they tried to pierce through it using their ocular skill, they felt terror. The wings on the greater demon was no longer bat-like but was something feathered dragons had, but instead of multi-dot colors, the feathers were black and shined when light hit it. Upon taking a closer inspection, the feathers were emitting black smoke, but they were actually shadows. His wingspan is now 4 meters in length. The presence of this greater demon even put shivers on the 3 elder demons' skins, and they were archdemons. When the greater demon opened its closed eyes, a wave of fear crept up the 3 elder demons' heart, but it was only for a second. Powerful, this was the thought present in the minds of the 3 elder demons. When Adrian opened his eyes he could see 3 demons that were familiar, but he swears he has not seen them before. He did not know who they were until he used his ocular skill on them. Name. Ascalar level. 300 name. Koran level. 300 name. Bronx level. 300 What are you doing here, elder? And what are those forms? You guys look awesome, was the first words that came out of Adrian's mouth. The elders were dumbfounded because the pressure they felt from Adrian disappeared like nothing happened at all. They returned to their old-looking form and sighed. Even if Adrian became a unique demon, he was still immature in the ways of the Deimos race, which is why he was acting like a child impressed with his new toy. Ascalar even hit him in the head because of his immature side. Ouch! What was that for, old man? Adrian said as he rubbed the part where he was hit. Ascalar's vein popped because of Adrian's question, and he retorted with another smack before saying, "That is for the trouble you have caused." Seriously, who performs their evolutionary process in an open field like this? Are you crazy? Next time tell me when you are ready to evolve. Seriously. This kid is a pain. The other 2 elders laughed at Ascalar and Adrian's interaction because deep down Ascalar was just worried for Adrian because he was the one Adrian met first and he grown attached to the young lad. So then, enough with the suspense and tell us, what kind of greater demon are you? Ascalar asked. Oh, just wait. I will see, Adrian said as he opened the status bar and said in a casual tone, "It seems I am called a Netheros." Chapter 92. Netheros. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Adrian looked at his status, it showed his new species, and it also showed that he is now a greater demon. He did not bother to look at the system messages just yet because the 3 demon elders were in front of him and Ascalar asked him a question. It would be rude not to immediately reply. Name. Equinox race. Deimos, half Asmodean, species. Netheros, greater demon, title. Champion of the twin gods, undead killer, liberator of the forgotten, dragon tamer, the first scribe, Deimos reserve soldier, goblin slayer job. Soul summoner sub job. Scribe, beginner, LVL. 51. It seems I am called a Netheros. Adrian told the 3 elder demons. Usually a greater demon will have a species name with the energy that they have absorbed, which is why the three elders asked Adrian. They heard the answer but was not sure what king of energy that his species name was derived from. Do you know if there is an energy called Nether? Asked Askeladd to the two elder demons beside him. I have no idea. You both know I am not the research type of demon, unlike you two who bury themselves in their own study. That guy in particular. Bronk said while pointing at Koron. How dare you? I for one only spend 16 hours a day in research. How could you say that I bury myself in my own work when is already a small time frame? Koron protested. You even slow time just so you could finish whatever you are reading, so you cannot fool me. Bookworm. Bronk said as he had a staring contest with Koron. Koron stared back more fiercely as if not wanting to lose. Ahem. Askeladd cleared his throat because the other two were getting ready for a brawl, so he asked Koron if he knew any type of energy with the name Nether because he is the most knowledgeable of the three demon elders. Stop behaving like children. Koron, do you have any idea on what that Nether or whatever energy is called? Something like its properties and composition. It is dangerous for the young lad if we do not guide him to use his powers, as it might backlash. Askeladd asked. I do not know apparently, but it might have been in a realm even we are not allowed to go or to set foot in, as I know all the energies in realms where living beings survived. It is probably from a higher plane of existence. I do not know how that brat had his hands on that type of energy, but he is lucky that his body did not break down and scatter in the wind. Koron said as he looked at Adrian like a specimen for an experiment. Since we do not know what energy he has communed with, we shall observe him for a while when he is on missions. That is why, Equinox brat, you must visit back at the Paradox Plains if you feel you are not well or your powers are not working properly. We will conduct an inspection on your body after you have collected yourself here so that you know the properties of your newfound power. Also get some clothes on. How can you be so shameless and still not get dressed properly? Askeladd said as the three demon elders went back to their respective tasks. Adrian on the other hand has finally been aware that his clothing was gone and he was in the default underwear. He suddenly felt very shy and looked for his clothing in his inventory. He retracted his cool new wings and equipped his weapon, armor and accessories back on before looking at the system messages. Congratulations player Equinox for successfully becoming a greater demon. You have successfully gained the title Greater Demon. You have successfully gained the title First Greater Demon. You have successfully gained the title First of its kind. The skill Deimos Core has been transformed to the Netheros species exclusive skill Netheros Core. Equinox has obtained the Netheros species exclusive skill Netheros Bane. Equinox has obtained the Netheros species exclusive skill Netheros Domain. Equinox has obtained the Netheros species exclusive skill Netheros True Form. The skill Netheros True Form has been sealed due to not having a high enough level to use. Equinox has obtained the Greater Demon exclusive skill Blink. Equinox has obtained the Greater Demon exclusive skill Chrono Shift. The skill Flight has been upgraded to the skill True Flight. Adrian was overwhelmed by the system messages that he read because there were many of them. Not only did he get 3 new titles, he also obtained 6 new skills. He also got his flight skill upgraded as a bonus. He was already excited to go into combat, but he had to look at all his new skills first in order to know their effects. He would look at the title last as he was more excited to read the skill descriptions. He looked at the skills exclusive for Greater Demons first. Skill. Blink, Demon Version, Tier. Persona exclusive, Greater Demon, Type. Movement effect. Travels on the specified destination that is within 10 meters of the user's location. Can be used 2 more times. Cooldown will only occur after the 2 extra blinks have been consumed. User must have vision PF the specified in order to use the skill. Cooldown. 30 seconds cast time. Instant mana cost. 500 mana points skill. Chrono Shift Tier. Persona exclusive, Greater Demon, Type. Buff effect. Uses temporal magic to coat the body and accelerate it for 10 seconds. Movement speed, attack speed and reaction time will be accelerated by 100%. Duration: 10 seconds cooldown. 5 minutes cast time. 1 second mana cost. 300 mana points skill. Netheros core tier. Netheros exclusive skill type. Passive effect: absorb energy from the Nether realm using the core of the Netheros body. The owner of the skill will have a new gauge added to the user's interface which is called Nether Gauge. Nether Gauge. The owner of the skill will have a gauge that tells the accumulated amount of Nether energy present in the user's body. Nether energy is used to apply the Nether attribute into the user's attacks. The more energy is used, the more powerful the enchantment. Nether energy is accumulated 1 stack per second. The Nether gauge increases by 100 every 50 levels. Nether gauge. 100 out of 100 cooldown. None cast time. None mana cost. None skill. Netheros Bane tier. Netheros exclusive skill type. Passive effect: applies the Netheros Bane on targets that have been damaged by the Netheros. Targets will be applied with the weakened status effect that decreases their stats by 10%, players, and 20%, monsters and NPCs, when the targets have been applied with 10 stacks of Netheros Bane. If the Netheros kills the target with Netheros Bane stacks, the Netheros will gain Nether energy stacks corresponding to the number of Netheros Bane stacks that the enemy killed had. It is not affected by immunity, cooldown. None cast time. None mana cost. None skill. Netheros Domain tier. Netheros exclusive skill type. Domain effect: summon a part of the Nether realm to spawn in the mortal plane for 20 seconds. The Netheros skills will be boosted by 50% and the Netheros stats would be boosted for 100% in the domain. All enemies inside the domain receive the debuff, Paranoia. Paranoia. All skill shots made by enemies will have a 50% chance to miss the targets. This will affect enemies regardless of immunities. Cooldown: 72 hours cast time. 10 seconds mana cost. 2000 mana points skill. Netheros true form tier. Netheros exclusive skill type. Transformation. Effect: release the limitations put upon you by the mortal realm and transform into the true form of the Netheros. All skills and attacks will deal splash damage by 50% of the original damage. All enemies affected by Paranoia will have the Mind Break status afflicted to them. Currently sealed. Must be at least level 100. Mind Break: all enemies who cast spells and abilities when in the vicinity of the Netheros will have their spells and abilities cancelled. Duration: 10 seconds cooldown. 72 hours cast time. 3 seconds mana cost. 3000 mana points skill. True flight tier. Legendary type. Movement effect: unfurl the wings in order to take flight in the air. Movement speed will increase by 20% during flight. Can cast skills while in flight. Cannot fly if wings are damaged. Cooldown: none cast time. None mana cost. None. Adrian, who observed his skills, rubbed his eyes in amazement because all the skills he got was powerful and very versatile. Although the Netheros true form was sealed, he imagined him transforming into a last boss type of player. He was most pleased by the Netheros Bane skill because his attacks will weaken his enemies and would also make it easy for him to farm mobs. Adrian was so pleased with what he received that he skipped happily towards Askelar's abode without even paying attention to the stares he was given. Chapter 93. The body has secrets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What do you think happens when peak experts or legendary NPCs come out of their hiding place? Of course, the monsters in the field zones will go back to their homes and go into hiding. The players who were out on a hunt suddenly were perplexed. They could not find monsters in the field zones the whole day. The players who were unsatisfied started ranting in the forums, and they were not alone. Numerous field zones had no monsters in it, which led them sending a bug inquiry to Atlas headquarters, but the only response they got was that it was no bug. The players then speculated it had to do with the world message. The players assumed it was a world message, but they did not know that it was in fact a universal message which led those monstrous NPCs to the world of Nebulon. The forums were buzzing and such because of what happened. Adrian also saw it after he was forced to log out of the game due to him exceeding the log.in limit. He was happily munching on his food when there was emergency news on the Pandemo News regarding the world message and field zone monster disappearance. Adrian activated the projector option of his Halos watch to watch the news. Hello my lovely viewers. Flash news here, brought to you by your flashy MC, Marilyn. The girl MC said as she sported an outfit that was full of glitters and sequins. She really was flashy. According to our source, the reason for the monster disappearances on field zones is that some NPCs with staggering levels showed up. Their aura alone scared the monsters stiff on low-leveled field zones such as those with monsters below level 100. She said and gave a wink to the audience. As for what rank of NPC they are, we are not sure, but they should be at the very least epic NPCs since they managed to one-shot one of our reporters when they tried conversing with them. She said with glee as they played the video of a level 105 assassin being hit by just a flick of a finger and then becoming particles. Their sudden appearance must have been linked to the world message that we have heard, since this has happened before when a world boss spawned during the early days of Pandemonium. All high-leveled NPCs at the time scouted for the whereabouts of the world boss, and it was given as a quest to players to subjugate it. Hopefully, it would be the same as the last time. You are watching Pandemo News Flash News, she said while waving goodbye to the audience. Adrian closed the projection since his mother's eye turned sharp when he saw him actually not paying close attention to his food. The only reason that his mother's slipper is not flying towards his face is because he was currently injured and recuperating. If he was fine, then that slipper would have come flying a long time ago. It seems everybody is speculating that a world boss is spawning. It would be cool it was low-leveled so I could participate. Adrian thought to himself as he finished his food. He talked to Marlon a little bit and sent him the gold coins that was his share before going to sleep. The next day, Adrian logged back in and summoned his soulbounds, then proceeded to cuddle them as he missed them. He was forcefully logged out when he reached Askelar's abode, which he complained a lot by the way. Still, now that he was here he might as well go inside the place since he was being expected. Adrian was granted passage by the guards when he reintroduced himself to them. They were shocked at first but immediately let him pass since they were familiar with his wolf companion, and the elder instructed them to let him in. The guards told him that the elder would be in the courtyard at this time of day, so Adrian headed there immediately. Adrian along with his soulbound saw Askelar as he signaled them to come close to the ladder. When they came close, it felt like they entered a transparent film of some sort. Adrian was about to ask Askelar what that was, but he told Adrian the answer to his worries. You have entered the barrier that I just made since we do not want the surrounding to get messed up, which is why I created a separate space just for this. Askelar said. For what? Adrian asked. No more dilly-dallying and get ready. Hit me. Askelar commanded. Excuse me. Adrian was dumbstruck. Hit me. Askelar said. BDNVL.M, can you keep up? Bab, ouch. Adrian started singing when he was hit on the head by Askelar. Why did you suddenly start singing? Did I not tell you that I would test your new body's capabilities? Askelar asked in an angry tone. I thought you were joking, so I just went with the flow. Adrian said with pure innocent eyes that Askelar could not take as the latter averted his gaze. If you wanted to be hit so badly, old man, then do not blame me for being disrespectful. Adrian teased, although deep down, he did not actually mean it. Adrian's aloof character suddenly changed and became fierce. Adrian knew that Askelair was telling him to hit him so that he could have a good grasp of his abilities before actually going to the actual combat. Adrian enlarged his gauntlets and aimed to punch Askelair, but he was not able to, as about at 2 meters his body was repelled by an unknown force. Askelair's eyes changed for a second because the attack of the kid in front of him bypassed some of the barriers he put up. Granted that he set the strength of the barrier to match the kid's level, but bypassing the barriers was insane. Askelair had to reinforce the barrier 10 feet in front of him to repel the kid's attack. It seems his body has a special property in which he ignores magic. Interesting. Askelair said as he continued to observe the changes in Adrian's body. Adrian on the other hand started attacking recklessly without using magic since he saw Askelair observing his physique. He tried throwing punches, claw attacks, and kicks but all were repelled. He started getting angry and it showed on his horns as the grey fire started burning vigorously. Adrian really wanted to land at least just one attack, but wishes cannot always come true as he became tired a few minutes later. Interesting. Your body seems to bypass the natural order of the world, or in other words, the world's mana. All the barriers I made using the mana of the surroundings were not effective and I had to reinforce the barriers to successfully repel you. Askelair said while having his hand on his chin. Adrian who heard this was ecstatic as there was a hidden feature to his body. He was more and more elated that he picked the Deimos race. Adrian started to laugh as he was absorbed in his own world. Askelair who saw this frowned a little as the lad is becoming overconfident. Askelair was about to hit Adrian's head when the latter suddenly saying words. Fufufu. This is not even my final form. Adrian said while making a superhero pose that made Askelair roll his eyes. Brat. I am sorry that I am ruining your fantasy, but what do you mean that it is not your final form? Askelair inquired. That is just it. This body is actually not my true form as the world is inhibiting it from releasing. You could say that this body is the seal for my true form. Adrian answered casually. Then how can you regain your true form and unleash it then? Askelair inquired once more as his interest is piqued. Oh. I just have to become stronger and summon my domain skill in which I could transform. Adrian said without even batting an eye. I see, then there is only one choice, then you must get more powerful. Askelair said as he created a dimensional door and flung Adrian towards it and said, come back when you can show me your true form. You crazy old man. Adrian shouted as he was flung towards who know where while his soulbounds all followed after him in the dimensional door. Adrian fell with a thud and realized that he was in an area that was a bit foreign to him. He then suddenly looked up and his other soulbounds followed after him and landed right on top of him, which he inadvertently said, oof. He instructed his soulbounds to get off him, and when he managed to stand up, a scroll hit him in the head with Askelair's voice echoing from the dimensional door. Use that to return back to the paradox planes as there are no dimensional fractures near there. Adrian took the scroll and put it in his inventory. He observed his surrounding and he could not find any living plants as they were all rotten. He looked around and all he saw were cliffs. It seems that he was in a canyon. Chapter 94. Cristobal Canyon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Adrian was flung into an unknown place by Askelair. He did not know if it was just chance or was intentional that he was sent to the outskirts of a canyon. The surroundings reminded him of the forsaken cemetery that he was at, but minus the tombstones. Adrian scoured the area only to find one wooden sign that staked with letters written in red paint, but upon observing it closely it was actually blood. Cristobal Canyon. Where the dead can never rest. Well, that sounds promising. And who is this Cristobal guy that he has a canyon named after him, said Adrian in a sarcastic tone. He then suddenly remembered an item in his inventory that was just sitting there. Adrian pulled out the corrupted spirit stone held in his hands. The corrupted spirit stone was made by combining the fragments together, and more fragments means a more powerful sealing stone. Item. Corrupted spirit stone, superior, tier. Epic type. Consumable effect. Seals the unrelenting soul of an undead monster inside it. The higher the tier, the stronger the sealing effect. In order to use, the sealed undead spirit must be blessed in any church so that they could bless and wash away its instincts to kill the living. In order to get a superior version of the corrupted spirit stone, Adrian had to fuse 10 fragments first to make an inferior version and then 20 more fragments for a moderate version. Finally, he fused 40 more fragments to upgrade it to the superior version. All in all, it took 70 fragments to make a superior version, leaving Adrian with 12 fragments. He decided to go for the superior version at once to greaten his chances. If there is a unique undead here, maybe I could seal it since I already have 2 more active soulbound slots available. I would prefer an off-tank or a supporter that could produce barriers since I already have a healer. Adrian thought. Adrian and his soulbounds walked around near the canyon entrance area, but there were no monsters sighted, which was odd. He checked this morning if the monsters are back in their field zones, and they were when he looked at the forums. Adrian could feel his skin crawl because the silence was eerie as not even the wind could make a sound. The surroundings were deathly silent and Adrian could feel that he was being watched. He was getting restless as he feels a looming danger, but he does not know where, so he instinctively used his evil eye to look at the surroundings. When his eyes changed color, he was able to see at the flame-like substance of the soul, and there were dozens of them. He could see them when he activates his evil eye, but when turned off he could not see them. What are they? Are they ghosts or specters? Why are they not attacking us? Or maybe if they attack, their invisibility will wear off. I could not appraise them since all I see is their soul color. None of them carry a golden soul anyways. Adrian thought. When Adrian got his evil eye, he could see the color of a being's soul as long as it carries one. There are the pale souls that is just misty white color. These souls are considered ordinary. The next tier would be silver souls that slightly stronger individuals possess. Finally, there are golden souls, which all 3 of Adrian's soulbounds possess because they are extraordinary. Canlayan has the deepest golden color, with Sirius second and Sina last because she has not activated her bloodline yet. Adrian was thinking on what to do, and he thought of a wild and crazy idea. That idea was using his skill soul form manifestation and fight them off as a soul. If both of them were incorporeal, they should be able to hit each other right. Adrian did not want Sirius to sit this fight out because there were about 50 beings he saw. Ghost-like enemies are notoriously fast but low in health, so Sirius would be perfect in dealing with them. Adrian casted soul form manifestation on himself first and was shocked because he could finally see the enemies. They were wraiths. The wraiths were wearing full-body hooded robes that were torn, and there were chains on their pale ghostly arms. Inside the hood was only a pale yellow light and no face. They hovered mid-air and they had no feet, but white smoke was spewing in their lower body. Monster. Wraith level 53 HP 50,000/50,000 100%. MP 20,000/20,000 description. An undead creature said to be the embodiment of souls of the recently deceased and have come back because of unfinished business. The wraiths suddenly charged towards Adrian as they saw his transformation. The only thing that Adrian could think of was that he cursed himself. He clenched his oversized gauntlets and tried punching the first wraith that arrived before him, and he was shocked because he could feel a rebound, which means his theory was correct. You have dealt 10,357 damage to the wraith. Adrian was not surprised by the enormous damage he dealt because his new titles gave him immense damage. Also, his Undead Killer title gives 50% more damage to undead. The Greater Demon title was the most useful of his current titles. The first Greater Demon gave him additional stats, and the first of its kind gave him the luck stat. Title: Greater Demon. Description: title given to those who successfully evolve into a Greater Demon. Can be upgraded. Effect: deal additional 10% damage to all enemies and get flat 5% physical and magical penetration. Those whose persona is lower than yours deal 10% less damage to you. Title: First Greater Demon Description. Title given to the first player to become a greater demon. Can be upgraded. Effect: all stats plus 25 title. First of its kind. Description. Title given to someone who becomes the first player to transform into a unique species. It gives you luck because you are going to need it. Scrub. Effect: opens the hidden luck stat. Luck plus 5. The player who unlocked the Dragonkin might have a similar title to my first greater demon, or maybe even better. Adrian thought as he was being swarmed by wraiths. Adrian could no longer take the assault of wraiths as he was already getting bombarded with claw attacks despite the 10% healing he gets from his overall damage. He decided to immediately cast Soul Form Transformation on Sirius since the cooldown for the skill just finished. Sirius' body became invisible to the naked eye and became ghost-like. Sirius use Phantom Rush. Adrian told Sirius using their soul link. Sirius bombarded the 48 wraiths with incredible claw attacks and even bit them. Now that Adrian has a way to physically harm incorporeal beings, this fight would become easier. Adrian also joined Sirius on the fight as he too was being bombarded with attacks from the wraiths as their aggro shifted to him. Meanwhile the two soulbounds, Canlayan and Cena, were wondering what happened to their eldest brother and master. Adrian finally decided to use the Vortex skill as there were too many wraiths to deal with. Adrian summoned a small cluster of condensed space magic and it slowly went upwards. He snapped his fingers and the condensed energy exploded, generating a black hole that sucked all the wraiths inside, carrying them to oblivion. The two soulbounds who were not in their soul form saw the black hole and were relieved because that means that their master is safe. You have successfully killed the wraith. You have been given experience points. You have successfully killed the wraith. You have been given experience points. Player Equinox has leveled up. Sirius has leveled up. Canlayan has leveled up. Cena has leveled up. Cena has leveled up. The ding that the level up notification was blissful to hear for Adrian as that was the result of his hard work. He was joyful, but he suddenly heard a notification. The cursed wraith wakes from its slumber due to the disappearance of its guards. Adrian then saw smoke surrounding them and gathering at a spot 20 meters in front of them. The smoke came together and made a swirling motion like that of a cloud tornado that was 30 feet in height. It did not take long for the cursed wraith to appear and look at Adrian with hunger like that of the wraiths before it, but with more intensity. It looked like a normal wraith, but it had dark tattered robes and inside the hood was red light instead of the yellow light that normal wraiths had. It was also 20 feet in height and it had black miasma seeping through it. This was the field boss that spawns when a number of normal mobs are defeated. Adrian was not happy with the field boss spawning because that means there are others present in the canyon and was able to hunt the invisible wraiths. It did not take long to see the people who were hunting the wraiths because Adrian heard a voice from his left side. "Daddy, the field boss is there." "Huh, it even has summoned some minions," a cute voice of a little girl said. "So I am treated as a minion now?" Adrian said as a vein popped on his forehead. Chapter 95. Cristobal Canyon 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Adrian looked at the two visitors that he has and was shocked because they were of a higher level than him. The young girl looked about 8 or 9 years old and was carrying a red stuffed toy lion with its mane looking as if it was on fire. She was wearing a white dress that was styled in old-century France. It had beautiful patterns that accentuate her brown hair and hazel eyes. She looked like a cute little fairy, but what makes her pop out is the red hood that she was wearing. Does she like Red Riding Hood that much that she styled herself just like her? Adrian thought. Adrian then looked at the other visitor and it was a man maybe just entered his 30s. The man was wearing a white kimono and topped it off with a blue kamishimo that had cloud designs on the lower part. The man had black hair and eyes with his hair in a ponytail style. He has a single-edge bladed sword and a sheath. The sheath of the sword had cloud designs with a dragon coiled on it. He must be the little girl's dad, but seriously, their outfits contrast a lot. One has an ancient European style while the other has the style of a samurai. Adrian thought to himself as he suddenly looked at his clothes and said, well, my fashion choices are not any better. Daddy, you take care of the field boss while I take care of its underlings, the little girl shouted as she was sure he could take care of the minions the cursed wraith summoned, aka Adrian and Sirius. Okay, my little sunshine, go get them, the man said. Adrian once again looked at the little girl to clearly see her name as he only saw the level previously. Name: Soleil level 71 job class. Pyromancer. The little girl named Soleil was a pyromancer and was 19 levels higher than Adrian, but he believed that he will not lose to this girl as Adrian believed that he has the status points of someone 30 levels above him. He once again looked at his stats. Name: Equinox race. Deimos, half Asmodean, species. Netheros, greater demon, title. Champion of the twin gods, undead killer, expand, job. Soul summoner. Sub job. Scribe, beginner, LVL. 52 EXP, 83.4% per 100% HP, 3470/4000 MP, 593/2200 VIT. 170 plus 5 STR, 195 plus 25 int. 195 plus 20 AGI. 170 plus 10 dex. 165 plus 15 end. 163. Adrian even did the motion where he pretended to be blinded by his stats because it was high. Also, he still had not used his soul essences and his nether gauge yet, which is why his trump cards have not yet been used. Yet, Adrian was not too keen on the fact on engaging with a battle among fellow players, as he does not want to PK them as they just misunderstood that he was a monster. The more pressing thing is that why can they see me in my soul form? Normal human players would not be able to see us, but how can they? Adrian pondered. This is no time to be in thinking mode. I should just get away a little bit first since it is the field boss that they are after. Adrian thought as he blinked away to his two soulbound's location, and Sirius followed suit. The little girl, Soleil, did not know what happened because the minions suddenly disappeared when she was chanting her spell. She tried randomly firing fireballs but did not get a reaction, which means her targets were no longer in the area. She frowned and threw a little tantrum before going back to her dad that was engaging the cursed wraith. Adrian reappeared on one of the cliffs as he told Canlaon and Sina to get to higher ground as they had visitors and wanted to use surprise attacks if ever Adrian was in danger. Adrian and Sirius, no longer in their soul form, just observed the situation from afar. There he could see that the father was using a typical quick sword draw style of attacks. He looked at the name of the man as he was curious of how strong he was. Name: Veu level 71 job class. Swiftblade. Veu sheathed his sword as there was wind getting collected on the sheath when the sword was in it. He drew the sword in such a fast pace that even Adrian was not able to see the drawing motion. The attack then slashed the air itself and struck the cursed wraith. He even dealt a critical attack. No way. How is that possible? Adrian thought as he knows that physical attacks were ineffective against ghost-type enemies. He also inspected the cursed wraith as he was in disbelief that it was damaged. Monster. Cursed wraith level 65 HP, 184, 730/200 000 MP, 100 000/100 000. Description: an undead creature said to be the embodiment of souls of the recently deceased and have come back because of unfinished business. It was put into torture once more as it became an undead by a mad magus and was cursed to never pass on to the afterlife even if it was killed. The vessel that holds its curse is buried in Cristobal Canyon. Adrian also used his evil eye to inspect the battle closer as Veu tried to dodge the cursed wraith. He then realized why its attack was effective on the cursed wraith even if it was a ghost-type undead. Adrian saw gusts of wind forming around Vayu as he continued to dodge the claw attacks of the undead. Upon closer inspection, the gusts of wind actually carried little critters that were about 3 inches tall. Adrian tried to identify them and he was able to name. Lesser wind elemental description. Newborn wind spirits that are mischievous and sometimes play with humans when they are unaware. If the wind just happened to blow your skirt up or blow your laundry away, it might just be a lesser wind elemental being playful. Elementals are beings that give the world order and sustains the elements of the world. If a natural disaster were to occur, it was often said to be the cause of an elemental being angry. This was the first time Adrian has seen a status card that had no level or health. Adrian was actually intrigued by this development. Elementals usually have another name and they were nature spirits, so it would make sense that the 2 players he encountered that is loved by them could see him in his soul form. They might have obtained a skill to see the nature spirits or any other ghost-like entity. Back to the battle, Vayu was skillfully dodging the blows that the field boss was doing. He would then slash at the arms of the field boss whenever he had the chance. He whittled down the boss' health points in this manner. He was gaining the upper hand when the cursed wraith screeched and he was suddenly bounded by chains. He could not even move his feet as he was rooted in place. The cursed wraith was about to plunge its claws on Vayu when a sudden tornado made of flames hit it as it screamed with a blood-curdling noise. The fire tornado managed to deal a good chunk of damage to the cursed wraith's health points, but it was not enough to incapacitate it as it flailed its hands and managed to hit Soleil. Soleil's health decreased to half immediately since she was a mage-class character, as they are known to be glass cannons. The chains that tangled up Vayu was still in effect and had no sign of being undone. Adrian, who saw this, could see that the cursed wraith's mana was visibly draining, which means those chains are probably a channeled skill that as long as it was in the vicinity, it could trap one opponent as long as it had mana. Adrian did not want to be rude and steal a boss since both of them needed it for something, maybe a mission. Adrian, who observed the father-daughter duo, could say that they are not pro-gamers and had just started the game. The father could be said to have some sword skills, probably because he studied kendo or something, but that would not be enough in this situation where the movement of the enemy is erratic and unknown. The little girl also was treating herself like a superhero, declaring things like this and that, not knowing that she must not attract the attention of the field boss. I cannot watch this anymore. I better go and help them, Adrian said as he blinked closer to the cursed wraith and his soulbounds followed. The cursed wraith was about to strike at Soleil and you could see tears forming on her eyes when the pale hands of the boss slowed down and an explosion suddenly formed at its head area. The cursed wraith suddenly turned towards Adrian, who executed his skills Chrono Lag and Quantum Space Mine. The cursed wraith was then given a face full of flame when it turned its head towards Adrian. Chapter 96. Cristobal Canyon 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the Western folklore, dragons are not considered as holy beasts but more like an incarnation of death and destruction that must be subjugated. In the Eastern folklore, however, they are revered as holy beings that could give blessings and are protectors of nature. What do you think would happen when a holy being dealt damage to an undead that rejects the natural course of nature? Canlayan has dealt 126 catastrophic damage to the cursed wraith. The flame breath hit the cursed wraith and it wailed in pain, as there was some scant amount of holy power in breath, as Canlayan is considered as an eastern type of dragon. Sina flew over to Soleil and immediately used its healing skill on her as she lost a lot of health, but mainly because Adrian told her to do so. At first Sina protested that it does not want to heal unknown persons, but Adrian managed to persuade it. Monster. Cursed Wraith level 65 HP 89 381/200 000 MP 731 752/100 000. Although the cursed wraith was wailing in pain, it was still sealing Vayu using chains, which is why Adrian does not expect support from either of them. Adrian used soul form transformation again on Sirius so he could hit the cursed wraith. The cursed wraith then switched aggro to Canlayan because it dealt tremendous damage to it. The cursed wraith then summoned chains from its two hands and used them as a whip. It targeted Canlaon, who was preparing a breath attack. The left chains then hit Canlaon's cheek, which diverted the flame breath elsewhere, while Sirius, who used Portal Assault, popped next to the right arm of the cursed wraith and bit it. The cursed wraith, who was supposed to do a follow-up attack, was unable to because of Sirius' bite. Adrian, who was observing the situation, finally intervened and summoned the Psyche armament that he has yet to use. Summon Psyche armament. Daggers, Adrian chanted. Adrian's gauntlets disappeared in his hands, and then a dagger 1 foot long materialized on each of his hands. It looked just like a dagger version of his Psyche armament. Sword, where the hilt was scale-like in patterns and the crossguard had a green cat's eye that moves as if surveying the surroundings. Adrian then used the first skill that the dagger had and immediately vanished from his location because he appeared at the backside of the cursed wraith. Skill: Soul Emergence Tier. Legacy Type: Active Movement Effect. Travel to the location of a desired target as long as it has a soul. Appear behind the target and your next attack within the next 10 seconds deal a critical strike. Cooldown: 1 minute cast time. Instant essence cost: 30 essence per cast. Following his appearance at the back of the cursed wraith, Adrian immediately used the second skill, the dagger Psyche armament. The daggers then glowed a blue color and Adrian immediately pierced the back of the cursed wraith. It could only wail in anguish as it was dealt catastrophic damage once again. Equinox has dealt 62,768 catastrophic damage to the cursed wraith. Skill: Soul Impale Tier. Legacy Type: Enchantment Effect. Coats a devastating aura of soul energy on your daggers and deal twice the damage for one attack. Cooldown: 30 seconds cast time. Instant essence cost: 15 essence per cast. Adrian dealt 2 times the damage of a critical strike, which enraged the field boss even more because its health was now on the red region. Adrian, who was still stuck at the back of the cursed wraith, was smiling because his guess that his Psyche armaments could target ghost entities. He would have been disappointed if it did not, because what is the use of a soul summoner if he could not damage souls? The cursed wraith then tried to shake Adrian off its back when Adrian stabbed again using his right hand. The cursed wraith wailed once again, then a shockwave was produced from it, thereby sending Adrian flying. Adrian unfurled his wings, which shocked both Vayu and Soleil, since based on their memory Dragonkins do not look like what Adrian is right now. The cursed wraith then summoned chains from below it and rooted itself to the ground using it. It then waved its hand towards Sirius' direction, and then chains suddenly tangled Sirius. Its hood then looked next to Adrian, and from below him the same happened as chains sprouted from the ground. Adrian then used his remaining blink to disappear from his location. When the cursed wraith saw Adrian vanished, he then chose his next target, which was Canlaon. It launched the chains on its arms towards Canlaon, who was preparing his breath attack. Canlaon managed to dodge the first chain attack by coiling his body to the left, but it was caught by the second chain that the cursed wraith launched. The second chain coiled around Canlaon's body like a snake and even muffled its mouth that was still trying to launch an attack. Due to being unable to move, Canlaon came down crashing towards the ground as the chains that bind him keep getting tighter, and Adrian could see that all those bounded were getting continuous damage because of it. Adrian, who reappeared a few feet away, tried coming closer, but chains would sprout from the ground whenever he would move towards the cursed wraith. He had no choice but use the third skill of the dagger Psyche armament, although he does not completely understand how it works. Adrian initiated the skill and a system message popped. Please throw 1 dagger towards the target. Adrian thought it was a targeted skill, but it was a skill shot. He then threw the dagger on his right hand towards the cursed wraith. It was easy to target due to it being rooted on the ground, but it sprouted a chain wall before it to block the dagger. Adrian thought he failed and frowned because he just wasted a skill. The cursed wraith then thought that its defense was successful because it did not tilt its body to avoid the dagger, but that was a grave mistake as the dagger phased right through its chain wall. The dagger then struck the chest of the cursed wraith, but it did not take damage. The cursed wraith thought that the attack was just an illusion because it did not take damage, but then Adrian muttered some words. "Soul Seeker," Adrian said. Adrian then accelerated like lightning towards the cursed wraith and phased right through its chain wall and then pierced its chest using his remaining dagger. The place where he pierced was the same location where the illusion dagger struck the cursed dagger. The cursed wraith did not even make a sound as its body was once again being sucked towards the ground. You have successfully executed the field boss of the outskirts of Cristobal's Canyon. Player Equinox has leveled up. Sirius has leveled up. Canlayan has leveled up. Cena has leveled up. Adrian, who saw that notification, was shocked because he did not know that the skill was that powerful. He once again checked the skill description so that he was not mistaken. Skill: Soul Seeker tier. Legacy type: Active effect. Shoot one of your dagger towards the target and give them a soul mark. If the skill shot misses, the skill will then go on cooldown. Soul mark. Activate the skill once again to travel to the location of the target with the soul mark and deal 1000% mixed damage. Enemies with less than 10% health will be instantly executed regardless of immunity. Cooldown: 24 hours cast time. Instant essence cost: 50 essence per cast. The skill was the definition of the perfect assassin skill as it had a high execute health threshold and high damage if the target would not be executed. It was a perfect finisher skill as it was subtle, and if the enemy was not aware and do not try to dodge the dagger, then they would regret it dearly. Although the skill was only a single target skill, and if the first dagger was dodged then you could only blame yourself, but for a stationary target this skill was deadly. When the cursed wraith was sucked back into the ground, the chains that strangled the others disappeared like it was just an illusion. Soleil, who came while hugging both Cena and her stuffed toy, then looked at Adrian with eyes of admiration and embarrassment. She was too embarrassed to speak, so his father, Veu, initiated the conversation. "Thank you, young man," as he shook Adrian's hand and continued speaking. "If not for you then both me and daughter might have been logged out of the game by now. She is just too embarrassed to say thanks to you because she mistook you for a monster. Dad, do not embarrass me in front of our savior," the young girl said as she pouted and stomped the ground. She even hugged Cena and her stuffed toy tighter. Chapter 97. New companions. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Adrian, who was only observing the situation between the dialogue of the father and daughter, could only smile as it only affirms that the two were close. Adrian could only chuckle as the two in front of him was still going back and forth in their dialogue. When the two noticed Adrian's chuckle, they became embarrassed as they were quarreling in front of their savior. "I know that it is not right to ask you this since you save us and all. Could you please give us the labyrinth key if it is in the loot? Of course not for free, as I would pay you for the trouble. We need that to access a dungeon for our mission," Veu said as they already used about a week in-game just to find that drop, as the cursed wraith can only be spawned every 2 days. The father and daughter looked towards Adrian with great expectations. Adrian felt the pressure, especially Soleil, who looked at him with cute eyes. He was a sucker to those stares as he used to play with the children at the hospital he used to stay in. "I am fine with it as I am not the only one who damaged the field boss anyway," Adrian said with an expression that he gave up resisting the puppy dog eyes the little girl did. "Yay! Thanks a lot, big brother." Soleil rejoiced and headed towards the loot pile. "I would not get my hopes up as it would not drop easily since you guys have been hunting it for about a week, right?" Adrian said as to not get their hopes up. A few seconds later, Soleil could be seen frowning, then started throwing a tantrum. Veu immediately went over and saw why his daughter had that reaction, because the key was not in the loot pile again. They had to wait another 2 days just to try once again, hoping that it would drop by that time. Adrian, who saw the little girl's reaction, could not help but frown. Adrian was about to comfort the little girl when his dad suddenly gripped his sword on the sheath and did a striking motion towards Adrian. Adrian could not believe it. Did he mistakenly judge their character? Or was he too soft? He did observe the situation before helping them, and he knows he can judge others' characters really well. Adrian can use blink to avoid the strike, but it was so fast that even his eyes cannot see the slashing motion. He was sure he was about to be hit, but the sword slash just brushed his cheek and did not damage him at all. Vayu then shouted at Adrian to get out of there, as there seemed to be a wraith trying to sneak up behind him. Adrian, who heard the warning, immediately jumped towards the father and daughter. He then faced backwards and saw the wraith that was sneaking up towards him. It looked like the cursed wraith that they attacked earlier, but in human size. Adrian was about to attack, but he then saw that the name was not in red. "Stop," Adrian said, which bewildered the father and daughter duo. "It is currently a quest NPC. Look at its name. It is currently in white. I think it will ask for a favor or something, which is why it wanted to come close to me," Adrian stated. "Ha! How is that possible, big brother? I mean, aren't monsters just monsters?" Soleil asked. Adrian did not know how to answer the little girl's question, so he just said that it was related to his job class. When he said that, the father and daughter duo tried to use their inspect skill on him, but it was repelled and no details were seen. BL.net, big brother, why is your status full of question marks? We cannot even see your name. Soleil grumbled. Soleil, that is a bit rude. Vayu scolded. Adrian then realized that he has yet to introduce himself to the duo, and even he did not know why his status are question marks to them, because he could see theirs very clearly. Adrian speculated that it must have something to do with his persona that is higher than other people. "I am sorry. I actually forgot to introduce myself because I thought you two could see my name. My name is Equinox," Adrian said. The two were about to introduce themselves when Adrian spoke again. "I already know both your names. Vayu and Soleil. Your name finally popped out when I tried inspecting you, but your level and job class are still question marks," Soleil said with a frown. "We will handle that matter later, because it is rude to keep Mr. Wraith waiting," Adrian said with a smile. He then continued with a serious tone, "So what do you want from me then, since you wanted to approach me so badly?" The wraith then answered in a raspy voice that as if it was gasping for air, "Guider of souls. I beckon you to help thyself in his misfortune. I have been tormented for eternity and want to be released from the curse that plagues thyself." Adrian then received a notification for a quest. The quest was given by the cursed wraith itself, and it wanted Adrian to free it from its everlasting torment. Quest notification: free me from bondage. The cursed wraith imprisoned by the mad warlock, Cristobal, wants you to free it from the seal its soul was placed in. Journey to the distorted labyrinth and find the chalice where its soul is sealed. Reward: unknown. Clear conditions. Find the chalice and break the seal. Failure: the soul of the cursed wraith will forever be bounded in this canyon, and your reputation as the guider of souls will go down. Do you want to accept the quest? Before Adrian could accept the quest, he asked the cursed wraith a question. "Where is the distorted labyrinth?" Adrian asked. As if on cue, the father and daughter duo then said, "That's where we need to go." Adrian was startled because the duo became so excited when they heard the words, "distorted labyrinth," that they shouted when they were about only a foot away from Adrian. The eyes of the duo then sparkled and looked at Adrian to ask them to form a party. "So the place you want to go to is this distorted labyrinth, right?" Adrian asked as the father-daughter duo nodded their heads eagerly. Adrian then looked towards the wraith and asked, "Can I bring companions along?" "It is not a problem, O guider of souls, as my seal is being guarded by a malevolent spirit, but you could only bring those two, as only 3 could enter the labyrinth at a time. If you bring more than that number, then the mad warlock might return, because I will use my remaining powers to mask your presences to fool the labyrinth." "What do you mean, fool the labyrinth?" Adrian asked as he was extremely curious. "The distorted labyrinth was made by the mad warlock as a way of keeping my seal hidden from the world. He made it so that the labyrinth was alive and could feel the presence of outsiders to fool whoever goes inside. All who wander will be lost forever, was what he shouted before leaving this place. Before I accept, there is one more thing that I need to know. Adrian said. What is it, O guider of souls? The wraith said, while the father and daughter duo was also expecting a very serious question involving a serious matter. Where am I? Adrian asked with a straight face. There was a long silence that if you dropped a pin, you could probably hear it make a sound. The father and daughter looked at Adrian in disbelief while the wraith looked like its fading soul was growing much faint. The one who asked the question was showing a V sign with his tongue sticking out in a cute way. The first one to speak was Soleil, as she knows when to break the atmosphere when things get awkward towards adults. We are in the realm of Forsaken that is located at the very outskirts of the spirit realm. Soleil, while smiling. I see that old man did not even bother to send me to Nebulon and just chucked me somewhere to train. I mean, it makes sense since he gave me a scroll that was different from the last ones I got. Adrian thought. Adrian was brooding over and ranting about Askeladd when the wraith once again spoke. Will you not take care of my plight, guider of souls? The wraith asked once again. Do you want to accept the quest? Adrian looked at the wraith and then towards the father-daughter duo before he accepted the quest. It was the first time a spirit actually gave him a quest, and he wants to examine if it was different from quests from living NPCs. Chapter 98. Distorted Labyrinth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Adrian, who accepted the quest, turned towards the father and daughter duo and said, So what should we name our party? Soleil immediately answered with, Free Wraith. Kuan. Vayu, who heard that, wanted to protest but saw Adrian giving a thumbs up. It seems Adrian was mindful of children's feelings. Adrian asking for a simple thing like the party name would put some importance for the task in Soleil's mind, as she was the one who named the party. She would give her best since she would feel responsible. Vayu now knows that the young man in front of him knows how to deal with kids. The party notification then appeared for the father and daughter duo. When they saw the part members' statuses, they were shocked. Their savior was actually 20 levels below them and his job class was ? Which means it is probably a hidden class or the extremely rare unique class. Vayu speculated that it must be a unique class, as they were only able to see spirits or ghost entities because of the blessing of the Spirit King, and even that would run out as time passed, which is why they are in a rush to finish their mission. Party. Free Wraith. Kuan name. Equinox level .53 job class. Name. Vayu level .73 job class. Swift Blade name. Soleil level .73 job class. Pyromancer. Wow. Big Brother is so strong. You are 20 levels below us, but you could deal with a boss class monster. Soleil said in admiration. The boss monster was just a bad match. Up for you too, that is why you could not deal with it properly. I also did not do it alone, as I had my soul bounds. Adrian said as he gets shy when someone praises him genuinely. You are too humble, young lad. It takes hard work and determination to be able to contend a boss monster. Vayu said as even he was astounded. Anyway, let us go to the distorted labyrinth. So how do we go to the labyrinth? Do we need to find the door or something? Adrian asked the wraith. No worries, O guider of souls. I can manifest the gate here in this location, as only the key that I carry is tangible. The wraith said while taking out a rusted key and did an inserting motion in front of it, and a door materialized. Adrian was impressed because he did not expect that, as in other games you have to usually look for a dungeon's entrance, but this was different as you only needed the key. The party then walked towards the door to go inside, as the wraith was the first one that entered. Adrian looked at Soleil because she has been looking at him for quite a while, meaning she is curious. Is something wrong? Asked Adrian to Soleil. I know that you are not being weird or anything, Big Brother, but how could you understand what that wraith is saying? Soleil finally asked. Can you not hear it utter words? Adrian asked as he was not sure if the girl was playing a prank on him. It was Vayu who answered Adrian's question by saying, "All we heard are incomprehensible whispers of three persons with an occasional ghoulish laugh." Is that so? Maybe it has something to do with my job class, as I can communicate with lost souls and the like. Answered Adrian. There is one more thing bugging me though, big brother. What is this blessing of the universe buff that our party has? Soleil asked once more. That is just a 2x experience multiplier. No biggie. Adrian said nonchalantly, which made the father and daughter duo stop right at their tracks. Even though Soleil was a little girl, she was informed with things related to pandemonium as it was her favorite pastime. Top guilds would scramble and probably beg Adrian to join them for a hunt just to experience a whopping 2x experience boost. It was rare to the point that only a handful of streamers ever experience it. Yua. I think my lucky star is in the night sky for us to be blessed with this luck. Soleil said in a rather quiet tone. Powerful, was the only word Vayu said. What are you guys waiting for? Let's go. Adrian beckoned to the father and daughter duo. The free Wraith.Kun party entered the door and was surprised because usually labyrinths were made of hedges, but this was something akin to muscle. The walls were muscle-like in nature and was even pulsating. Even Adrian was grossed out as it seemed life-like. To the developer, whoever made this, who hurt you? Adrian said in a small voice while a man inside a building suddenly sneezed. Are you not sick, director? The female attendant asked. I am fine, someone must be cursing me or something. The young director said. The Wraith then started forming a spell which made runes that were smoky appeared and attached to the party member's forehead. They all received a notification indicating that they were applied with something. The free Wraith.Kun party members have been applied with Shroud. Shroud disables the perception of the distorted labyrinth to mesmerize and toy with its trespassers. This should keep you safe from the prying eyes of the labyrinth, guider of souls. It is not permanent as it would only last for 4 hours as my power grows weaker to keep it active. It will also not deter the mindless creatures inside the labyrinth, so still be on your guard. The Wraith stated. Adrian only nodded and explained to the others what the buff was and its duration. The father and daughter nodded in agreement and became alert in their surroundings. The Wraith then said to follow it as it will lead them to the middle of the labyrinth where its soul has been sealed. The walls were very eerie as it pulsated like a heart. When Adrian mentioned this, the Wraith then explained how this labyrinth came to be. This labyrinth was made using the heart of a dark god who fell in battle. The mad warlock used it and created this labyrinth. When he learned that there was still a little bit of consciousness in it, he used that to mesmerize and trap all the trespassers of the labyrinth. It would allure anyone, and then the mad warlock would use them as lab rats for his experiments. The Wraith said with visible anger in its tone. When Adrian heard that this labyrinth was made using a body part of a dark god, he was surprised as it would mean this place was extremely old. It would seem that the gods overlooked the fallen bodies of their opponents, and the inhabitants of the various worlds did not bother to look for them as they thought that it no longer posed any kind of threat. Adrian went into deep contemplation when he heard this and thought, doesn't that mean there are others who did the same or maybe even worse? I should not think of this now as I am currently busy with this task, but I would report this to the elders later. If your soul is sealed, how can you even be here with us? Adrian asked suddenly. It will take a long explanation, but you could say that this body that you see is but an apparition of me. A projection, if you will. I will explain later, but it seems that we have company. The Wraith answered. When the Wraith said that, Adrian looked in front of him. He saw huge mushrooms that had faces and limbs of humans. They were about 4 feet tall and released black spores whenever they moved. They did not seem to mind Adrian's party, but they were blocking the way forward. Adrian wanted to fly over them, but the spores that they released corroded parts of the wall made of muscle, which scared him a little. He then inspected what the monsters were, and they were elementals. To be more exact, elementals that were corrupted. Monster. Corrupted Earth Elemental Level. 60 HP, 70,000/70,000 MP 10,000/10,000 Description. Earth elementals that were corrupted because of the experiments done to it by the mad warlock Cristobal. Due to them becoming corrupted, they no longer have the ability to freely wield the mana present in nature. The spores they release have great corrosive property that not only corrodes living tissue but the mana present in living beings as well. Adrian then instructed both Canlayan and Soleil to use their fire-based attacks to take care of the 5 corrupted earth elementals in front of them because they are pressed for time. Canlayan then took a deep breath and spew red-hot flames towards the corrupted earth elementals. He then diverted his attention towards Soleil as he saw her not even chanting. Adrian was shocked because she did not even chant some words as 5 fireballs materialized right away and headed towards the 5 corrupted elementals. It would seem that Adrian was not the only special person in his party. Chapter 99. Distorted Labyrinth 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Adrian was amazed by how Soleil used her skills, as she seemed like how the Deimos use origin magic, which only used at most 1 or 2 word chant. She might have gained a skill to invalidate long chanting, which normal mages tend to do. The Deimos only needed to say the name of the spell in order to cast it, but the downside is that they can only use origin magic. Soleil seemed to be using the stuffed lion as a magic wand or a medium for spells, since mages need them in order to better control spells. Adrian used his dark blue evil eye on the stuffed lion and he saw a red soul that was on blazing like a very little sun. When Adrian observed it more in depth, the red soul became afraid and the fireballs headed toward the corrupted elementals reduced in power. Adrian, who saw this change, suddenly had an "I am sorry" expression written on his face. Soleil, who also noticed it as her bear was shaking as if it was in fear. Although the power diminished, the combined dragon breath and fireballs were super effective that it cut more than 60% of the health points of the corrupted elementals. Adrian then summoned his Bao Psyche armament to bombard the corrupted elementals with piercing arrows, while Vayu used his sword drawing technique to finish them off. The enemies were easy because they were like mindless dolls, as their eyes contained no color and they just stared into the void while advancing. "Big brother, did you do something to Regu-chan? He says that he is afraid of you," Soleil said as they were picking up loot that were mainly miscellaneous items. "I am sort of to blame for scaring him a little because my staring probably intimidated him a little," Adrian jokingly answered. "If you do not mind me asking, young man, what are you?" Vayu said. I don't understand," Adrian replied while having a dumbfounded expression. "What my daddy meant to say was, what is your race? You cannot be a dragonkin because your horns curve forward rather than curve backward like them. You also do not have a tail and your wings have feathers, which is cool," Soleil said as a matter of fact. "Okay, then I will answer you if you also answer my question." "Deal," Adrian replied. "Deal," Soleil replied enthusiastically. "I am from the Deimos race, or in a much simpler term, a demon." "Then it is my turn to ask the question, why do you need to go inside the labyrinth? If you could show me the mission, that would be fine too," Adrian said with a smile. "Wow. Then does that mean you unlocked it by your own?" "Amazing," Soleil said as she was so excited to see other races that are not of the starting races. She then answered Adrian's question, "We need to beat the boss in this dungeon so that we could also become another race. With Big Brother here, it would then be a piece of cake since you already experience it once." Adrian then calmed Soleil by saying, "I activated mine when I was at the starting village, so it could be different for your mission." Adrian had a more important thought, which was, there are others who can race change like me and had not unlocked the mission so that new players could use them. It also means that there may be hidden experts that do not broadcast their rank in the leaderboards. Adrian put all that in the back of his mind and told the father and daughter duo that he would help them with their mission in any way he can. The two then thanked Adrian a bunch of times, which wasted about 5 minutes of their time. There was now 3 hours and 30 minutes remaining before the shroud fades, and they were still at the outer edges of the labyrinth. They made good use of their time because the wraith was guiding them to the right directions, and they tried to avoid some monsters that can be avoided to minimize the time. Adrian could see his stamina bar being depleted slowly because they have been moving fast to reach the center quickly, but the labyrinth was enormous and sometimes they would encounter monsters that attacked them suddenly. Monster. Corrupted Fire Elemental Level 62 HP, 60,000/60,000 MP 30,000/30,000 Description: Fire elementals that were corrupted because of the experiments done to it by the mad warlock Cristobal. Due to them becoming corrupted, they no longer have the ability to freely wield the mana present in nature. They became extremely aggressive and would suddenly charge at other beings to engulf them in flames and turn them to ashes. Soleil suddenly launched a fireball towards one of the 10 corrupted fire elementals, but it only seemed to like it rather than be damaged. It also shone brightly compared to before as it seemed to become empowered. Vayu, who noticed this, told his daughter to sit this fight out since the corrupted elementals became excited when hit by her fire spells. Vayu then started his offensive with Sina's heals as support since the team did not have a dedicated tank, but Adrian told Canlayan to tank the fireballs that the corrupted fire elementals throw at them since he has high resistance. Vayu then used the chances he was given to freely attack the corrupted fire elementals. Vayu would strike with a sword draw once, and if he hits an enemy, there would be a visible wind that swirls on his sword sheath. His next few attacks also became stronger since they defeated the next corrupted fire elemental faster than the last one. Even with the support of Adrian's piercing arrows, they still defeated one faster than the other, and when Vayu successfully hit 10 times, a twister was released with his sword draw. The twister was about 5 feet in circumference and it even caught the corrupted fire elementals. The twister was considered as a hard crowd control as it carried the corrupted fire elementals all the way to the path ahead by 10 meters. Adrian, who waited for the twister to die down, used the first skill of his Bao Psyche armament, Shooting Star. You have successfully put the corrupted fire elemental to rest. You have gained experience points. You have successfully put the corrupted fire elemental to rest. You have gained experience points. Ednel.co. Player Equinox has leveled up, Player Equinox has leveled up, Sirius leveled up, Canlayan leveled up, Sina leveled up. The father and daughter duo was really excited by the experience buff because they could see a difference in their experience bar as it becomes filled faster than without it. When they looked at Adrian, he already gained 2 levels while his soulbounds gained 3 levels, which was surprising. They also know that experience points should be scarce for summoners since he has to share with his soulbounds, but did not seem to be the case for Equinox. The father and daughter wanted to ask, but it would be rude for anyone to spill their secrets since even Equinox himself does not ask them much. The party continued their journey with much ease, but the wraith suddenly stopped to speak. We have reached the midpoint of the labyrinth. We will encounter much more ferocious and creatures only found in nightmares from here, so be careful as they could show up anywhere. The father and daughter did not know what the wraith was saying, so they could only ask Adrian, which the latter happily obliged to repeat what the wraith said. Vayu gripped his sword on his sheath tighter while Soleil was gathering the fire spirits around her as a precaution to launch them whenever necessary. Adrian also instructed Sirius to immediately signal them when a threat would appear, as it would suddenly become agitated when monsters are near. The previous fast pace they used was no longer there but was replaced by a steady pace as they cautiously proceeded forward. Sirius was in the lead as he assessed the situation. They made good progress despite having 2 hours and 40 minutes left before the shroud disappears. Sirius suddenly stopped in place and took a sniff before suddenly jumping forward and landing on a tile. The tile then submerged, which triggered teeth like spikes to suddenly protrude and attempt to skewer Sirius. Siri.Chan, Soleil shouted while Adrian did not appear worried as Sirius appeared somewhere near Adrian immediately, which startled the father and daughter duo. The spikes then slowly withdrew after a few seconds back into the wall, and the tile that submerged has emerged once again as if it never went down in the first place. Adrian, who did not want to explain the situation, just said with a smile as if nothing happened, "Let's go and do not step on that tile." Sirius once again led the way as it has done earlier, but there was a more cautious look on its face as if it was saying, "That was close." Chapter 100. Distorted Labyrinth 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The party was making great progress, and now there was only an hour and 40 minutes left before the shroud buff ends. The labyrinth was more or less difficult if you did not have a soulbound like Sirius who could detect traps and actually try to activate them even if you detected it. Due to Sirius, the traps that would instantly kill or damage others was avoided beforehand. Adrian was really thankful for Sirius this time, and he praised it every time that he manages to disarm a trap. He would also warn others that enemies were approaching. The enemies they faced were the same as the previous corrupted elementals but only more powerful. The corrupted earth and fire elementals became level 70, so they got status buffs, but they only showed one at a time, which made it easy for the group to dispose of them. The corrupted earth elementals now explode spores whenever they are defeated and poisons whoever was in the vicinity. Luckily, each party member has potions to cure simple status effects but are short in supply because they are more difficult to brew compared to regular potions that restore health or mana. The corrupted fire elementals was the most difficult to deal with, as when they die, they leave a fire apparition that would charge towards them and inflict the target with a burn status. The upcoming enemies were not much of a threat because they come one at a time, but they chip off the party's health points and status recovery potion because of the damage over time. Due to that reason, they were now running low on status recovery potions. If the dungeon boss was a monster that mainly dealt with damage over time status skills, then they would be doomed with a prolonged battle. The good news is that Adrian leveled up 10 times with his soulbounds about the same. Vayu and Soleil leveled up 2 times due to the experience points multiplier, but they still pale in comparison to Adrian, who has a 6 times experience point multiplier. They might not have broken a sweat due to the unique character of the labyrinth, as it was not meant to be traversed like they did. Usually when an entity enters the labyrinth, it would be charmed and be forever trapped into it, but the Free Wraith Kuan party just waltz right in like it was a vacation spot. The only downside is that they have to quickly finish the dungeon in the remaining time they have left, which is 1 hour. With an hour left, they reached the middle of the labyrinth and saw nothing out of the ordinary. If someone were to actually describe the middle of the labyrinth, it would be ordinary. There was a fountain with that did not work as there was no water flowing from it. There was also a gazebo made of marble, but it was stained with dirt due to not being properly maintained. If it were to be described, it would be like an abandoned backyard of a house, but in a place filled with flesh walls and corrupted elementals, then this part of the labyrinth would be out of place. This would be the last part of the labyrinth, but my seal is not located here as it is located under this place, the Wraith said. The Wraith then walked towards the gazebo and disappeared. When the Wraith disappeared, the 3 of them thought that they were deceived. The party then hurriedly went close to the gazebo and discovered that there were stairs leading down. Adrian was the first one to take the lead, and because his soulbound Canlayan could not fit, he polymorphed him into becoming smaller. Adrian led the way down the stairway, and it felt like they were descending to another place, as it felt like they passed by a barrier or something. When they reached the end of the stairs, they saw that it was a vast area where the floor was made of muscle. The floor even vibrated to maximize its creepiness factor. Adrian looked at Soleil to see if she was okay with this, but then remembered that for kids under the age of 12, traumatic dungeon layouts change depending on their age. The blood splatters are also non-existent for them. This made the game popular for underage people and not ruin the fun for older gamers. The fact that the game could distinguish age was in fact mind-boggling and amazing. The Wraith was there to welcome them and said, "This is the heart of the labyrinth, and my soul is sealed in a relic here. The relic is guarded by an abomination that was created by Cristobal, so be wary because it is powerful." Adrian disseminated the information that the Wraith told him, as he was the only one that could understand them. They looked around but there was no boss monster around until they heard chains rattling. The party then heard a bellow in front of them. Steps that came from hooves then came next, and then a giant entity that was 3 meters tall and held a giant axe. It was a Minotaur. Monster. Asterion, Supreme Minotaur, Dungeon Boss, Level 80 HP, 500,000/500,000 MP, 50,000/50,000. Description: a Minotaur is a monster that is a hybrid between a man and a bull. It is unknown as to how their kind came to be, as they are vastly different from bull demi. Humans as Minotaurs have the whole face of a bull with having the body of an adult male. Asterion was abducted by the mad warlock Cristobal from his previous dwelling and was brainwashed using torture to protect the seal that keeps his labyrinth from functioning. The party then immediately attacked as they did not want the boss monster to gain the upper ground. Adrian immediately used the third ability of his Bow Psyche armament. He shot 3 shooting stars towards the Minotaur but was surprised by the damage he dealt. You have dealt 9,128 damage to the boss monster Asterion. You have dealt 10,579 damage to the boss monster Asterion. You have dealt 9,873 damage to the boss monster Asterion. He was surprised that an attack with a piercing effect that negated defense only dealt damage in the 10,000s, which means normal damage would only deal about a quarter if they hit it. The Minotaur then raged when it was unable to block the attacks that was sent to it and charged towards them. Adrian instructed Canlaon to ram it with equal force. Canlaon returned to his original form and met Asterion charge a few seconds later. Adrian thought that Canlaon would at least halt its charge by a little bit and he would slow it down using chrono lag. Canlaon was straight up dragged by the unrelenting charge of the Minotaur, so Adrian had to cast chrono lag for Canlaon to escape. Canlaon has received 6,457 damage. The charge alone decreased Canlaon's health by half. Fortunately, the Minotaur did not stop its charge and did not attack Canlaon when it flew away from it. The Minotaur crashed towards the stairway, thereby destroying their only way to retreat. Adrian immediately ordered Sina to heal Canlaon as he instructed the others to bombard the Minotaur while it was still dazed from crashing. Soleil immediately formed a fire tornado and launched it towards the Minotaur. The flaming tornado hit the Minotaur, but it was not even phased or had the burn status. Fortunately, Adrian already applied 3 stacks of Netheros Bane on the Minotaur and only needs 7 more for it to become permanent. Adrian immediately casted 7 quantum space mines simultaneously since it was now possible to do so. The Minotaur was immediately hit with the weakened status before it could recover from its slight daze. The Minotaur recovered from its daze and it made a charging motion once again. The party was ready to avoid the charge, but the Minotaur suddenly raised its head and right hoof simultaneously and activated a skill. The Minotaur stomped its right hoof and produced a tremor that shook the entire floor. Player Equinox has received 1,287 damage. Party member Vayu has received 1,869 damage. Both Vayu and Equinox received, but Soleil managed to avoid it because she used the fire element to levitate herself to dodge like what she did earlier. Adrian was about to stand up when he saw a giant axe descending towards him. Adrian immediately used Chrono Shift to increase his overall speed and dodge the attack. The Minotaur blew its nose as if it was not satisfied with the result. It still charged towards Adrian despite the occasional bite and claw attacks that Sirius made towards it. Adrian did not know why it was so hell-bent on attacking him. Adrian enlarged his gauntlets and used both soul essences and nether energy to empower his punch. The Minotaur also used a skill as its axe suddenly had a red glow. The gauntlet and the axe met and a serious shockwave erupted when both weapons clashed, but Adrian was still knocked back until he hit a wall. The Minotaur still charged towards him even though it was receiving attacks from his party members and soulbounds. At this point there was only one thought that passed through Adrian's mind. Do not tell me that it is a unique boss equipped with its own special AI.